overview of how we can start a registry. And the take-home message is that if we did it, you can do it too. So this is going to be a take-home message. Now, before I start my talk, I really like to thank all my colleagues in Armenia, in particular Dr. Sebat Avakian, our co-founder of this project, Dr. Miran Nazarikian, and all our laboratory staff. And also I want to dedicate this talk in memory of very good friends of ours, Grabsky, Slavik, and also Vahe, who were instrumental 15 years ago in establishing this registry. Now, what is a registry? A registry is a stores HLA typing information from volunteered donors and also all their personal information. And that the data bank is the registry. Now, registry is an entity which facilitates the collection and transportation of stem cells or bone marrow from patients from donor to the patients. And a registry must be a legal entity. It has to be registered as a independent or governmental or charity or a corporation in a country that is functioning. And for us, for Armenian Bone Marrow Donor Registry, we are both registered in United States as a charity organization and in Armenia as non-governmental charity organization. And it has to have its bylaws. So it's a real legal entity that a registry is. Now, why to start a registry? Why do we need to start a registry? My previous colleagues, they explained that in order for a patient with hematopoietic stem cell problems and other blood disorders, they need to have a bone marrow stem cell transplant. Now, the easiest donor to get is obviously the sibling, and the chance of finding a sibling match is only 25%. So that means that the 75% of patients, they cannot find a match. And therefore, they have to go and find their match donor from an unrelated registry. Now, the registry usually starts, behind starting a registry is a sick patient. And either the patient itself, in the case of, for example, gift of life, and or the family of the patient, they start this registry because they need to find that magic donor to save their patient's life. Now, the best chance of finding a match donor is within the same ethnic group as the patient and from the same country. Now, as I said, what triggers the start of a registry? It usually is always a patient behind the scene. Like it was the case for Armenian Bone Marrow Donor Registry, it was the case for Anthony Nolan Bone Marrow Trust, where Anthony Nolan was the patient. It has been the case for National Marrow Donor Program, NMDP, and also for the Cypriot Registry. We all had a patient in mind to help, and we started establishing a registry. Now, sometimes government, they start a registry. If that is a very welcoming move, but that doesn't happen very often. Or a private registry, private person or entity starts a registry. So it can be a combination of different motives to start a registry. Now, factors that you have to have to start a registry, and those are very important. First of all, you have to be a very committed person, and you have to have perseverance. That when you want to start a registry, you have all the logistics in place to start a registry. The second important part is the motivation. And as I said, most of the time the motivation comes from the patient side. And the funding. Now this funding can be governmental or can be independent, like you do your own fundraising, or can be the combination of both of them, both governmental and private funding. Now, you need to have expertise, and expertise is very important in the field of immunogenetics and transplantation. And last but not least, you have to have a very good computer IT establishment infrastructure, especially with the infrastructure that it enables you to do the HLM matching, and that you can either have it in-house or you can just buy it and establish it in your registry. So those are very important factors to have. Now, a typical function of a registry and entities that goes with the registry is donor recruitment. Donor recruitment, it sounds difficult, but it's the most easiest part. You can recruit a lot of donors, especially if they are for a patient, and usually they are very emotional, they come forward, they become a donor. But the donor management side is very difficult because once they become a donor, they have to be available. Once they become a match, they have to be available for any patient in the world. And that's a very difficult task to have because sometimes they freak out, they don't want to continue with their donation, and or they're misinformed, or they just say, no, I don't want to become a donor. So those two goes hand in hand, that you have to have a very committed donor to recruit. Now, then you have to be able, the registry has to be able to do a donor search through the HLM matching program, the IT program which I mentioned. And also some registries, they have their own HLM typing laboratory. This is the case for Armenian registry, which we have our own laboratory, tissue typing lab, which is licensed by FE, and for the last 10 years we are working. Or if you are a registry, you can do your tissue typing and contract out to different centers. So you don't have to have your own laboratory. But in most cases, some cases, they have. A registry has to be able to collaborate with international registries. And that's a paramount importance, especially if you want to do search or if you want them to search your database. You need to be able to do the coordinated harvesting. Once you have a donor match for a patient, then you have to facilitate collection of stem cells from that particular donor and then facilitate the transport of stem cells to the transplant center. Now, in our case also, our registry has got its own harvesting center. So when we identify a donor, which is, especially is in Armenia, we can collect harvest the stem cell, and we have arrangement with different courier companies which they come and take the stem cells to wherever is being requested. Now, as I said, information technology, IT is paramount important, and obviously the administration. You have to be able to administer everything from start to finish when you recruit donor and release a donor to a transplant center. Now, you need money. That's the most important part, and that is very, very difficult part to get. But why we need money for? I mean, the breakdown is that you need money to start off. To start a registry, you need to have the infrastructure. Infrastructure can be a small facility. You can have independent space, or you can be part of the hospital. It doesn't matter, but you have to have a dedicated space. You need to buy all the computers. You need to buy, you have to be able to employ your staff. You have to have all these different entities which I mentioned before. So all those cost money. It costs a lot of money to maintain a registry because sometimes when you recruit a donor, the donors get old, or they don't want to, or they get ill, or they die. So you have to be able to continually renew your registry, and that costs a lot of money. Now, the personnel and administration. This is such a long list. Now, in a lot of places, these roles get combined. I mean, you can have a medical director, which also can be a lab director. You can have, but you have to have a lab supervisor. But the lab supervisor can also do some HLA typing. So this is the maximum staffing that you can have, but you can also combine different roles in order to save resources and save manpower. Now, donor education and outreach, this is the paramount important factor because there are different factors that when you do a recruitment, for example, you have to educate donors. Because sometimes, as I said, the donors, they don't know why they are becoming a donor, and this is extremely bad when they become a matched donor and they refuse donation. In some countries, you need to know what influences the yes answer after the match becoming a match. Sometimes the family plays a big role in decision making. It's not the individual donor. And these are cultural influences that you have to take into account. And also sometimes it's the religion factor. They don't know whether they are allowed by religion to donate or not. So the education and outreach is very important. In the terms of education, also you need to inform them that the stem cell donation is different from the embryonic stem cell donation. And that's also a factor which needs to be clarified. And also, for example, in Armenian language, the bone marrow and postgraduates and bone it's spinal and stem cells are almost the same word, postgraduates and bone. So this is something which, people get confused. They think that they go to the spinal cord to take the bone marrow instead of the spongy bones, and that creates a lot of fear, and then they don't want to get paralyzed after that. So education and outreach are paramount important, and you have to spend money and time to do so. Now, membership to international organization, you cannot be an international registry by not being a member. And membership to Bone Marrow Donor Association and Bone Marrow Donor Worldwide, they all cost money, and you have to pay fees for that. And if you are having your own laboratory, like we have our own lab, then you have to be an FE member. You have to pay for your lab to be inspected, or if you want to be an ASHI member, you pay for their external QC, quality samples, or FE, or whatever. So this is all a cost that you have to take into account. And also transportation of stem cells, it costs quite a bit that you need to budget for. Now, once a donor has been identified, then you take a blood sample from that donor, and you have to do the infectious disease markers. You have to make sure that that donor that is matching that patient has no infectious diseases. That is all tabulated in the regulation. So after having that, if the donor is available for donation and there is no infectious disease carrying markers, then you need to arrange the harvesting, you need to collect the stem cells from the donor, and then you need to have a fee schedule in order to pay for your all the time and resources that you have spent time to find the donor and do the harvesting cost, and also the transport, movement of that collection material to the outside world. And also in some cases, you can do research by your donor consent and do very interesting research if your donors do agree and they have to sign a form for that. Now, the optimum size of the registry, which my colleague Dr. Muller will talk about it after my talk, it depends on your HLA heterogeneity of your donor population. The more heterogeneous you are, probably you need to have more donors. But it all cost dependent. My wish is that we have 50,000 donors, but my wish can be fulfilled if I can find money to type 2,000 more donors. So it's all cost dependent. Now, how did we start Armenian Bone Marrow Donor Registry? I'm going to give our registry as an example. Now, like any other registry, the motivation behind was a sick child, 4 years old, Alec Topalian from Ohio, USA. At that time, I was working at the Anthony Nolan Bone Marrow Trust in England, and Alec's mother called me from state and asked me to find a match for her child. Now, at that time, we had 250,000 donors on Anthony Nolan, and altogether we had 8 million donors worldwide. and there were no match donor for Ali. So that motivated me to travel to Armenia, find my working partner, and establish the registry. Now, thank God, Ali Toparian, she's doing wonderful. She's going to university, and she's a thriving little lady. So that was the motivation behind the Armenian bone marrow donor registry. Now, why Armenians need a bone marrow registry? Because genetically we are very unique. They are due to different factors: geography, history, religion, and culture, language, and letters. Now, geography, we are surrounded by mostly Muslim countries. I'm emphasizing this not as a bad factor, but because we are a Christian, and usually the intermarriages within the Muslim countries have not been encouraged. Now, Armenia is a very mountainous country, very rugged country, and we have a very harsh winters. So movements of people around have been very limited, especially in the old days. We are the first nation in the world to adopt Christianity, and we have our own religion, a sect of Protestant, which is called Gregorian Church, very unique, and we own unique alphabet. So all these unique factors gave us the situation that the intermarriages were very limited, and therefore we developed our unique genetic makeup, which is not that desirable for the in the terms of transplantation. Now, due to historical factor, we have 10 million Armenian population. 3 million live in Armenia. The rest, 7 million, they live outside Armenia. So for our registry, it was a big challenge to incorporate all the Armenians into the registry. And as you see, that widespread population of Armenians, especially in the United States, in California, we have 1 million Armenians living there. In Soviet Union, in Russia, we have a large population of Armenia. We used to have a large population of Armenia in Iran, and obviously in Syria, Middle East, but they all started moving around with the political situation. Now, the country-specific challenges that we faced 15 years ago when we decided to start a registry, Armenia was a new independent country. And a lot of people in the room, they know what that means. And it was a former Soviet country which had a very, very difficult form of practice than the Western countries. The country was poorly developed in terms of communications, transportation, and healthcare. And there were no culture of volunteerism because everything was told from the above, from the Politburo down. And there were no concept of fundraising. They haven't had an idea of what fundraising meant. So these were all challenges that we were facing 15 years ago. And I'm very proud and happy to say that most of the challenges we did overcome throughout the years, and we are in a very, very better situation than 15 years ago. However, there are some situations still existing in the healthcare, which ideally we want to see a more progress system, but slowly but surely, hopefully they'll go there. Now, the structure of MBNPR, we have our laboratory and registry in Yerevan. That's our heart of the operation is in Armenia. Then we have offices, especially in Los Angeles, where I reside. And we have recruitment centers both in East Coast and West Coast. And then we have worldwide distribution of different centers. And we are very strong in Karabakh, in Iran especially. Our very dear Maria Tunyan, she is our representative sitting in the audience from Iran. From Lebanon, Germany, and Russia, we have all presentations there. And we are a member of all the organizations that we have to be a member. And also we are a co-op member of National Marrow Donor Program. We work very closely with different hospitals. In the United States, we work with City of Hope. we have very, very close collaboration with Children's Hospital of Los Angeles, with Dr. Nina Kapoor. They have been instrumental in the establishment of our harvesting center protocols and cryopreservation. In the East Coast, we work very closely with Dana-Farber Cancer Center. In Iran, we work very closely with the Bimaristan Shariati Hospital with Dr. Ghabamzadeh. And in Germany, we work very closely with our dear Yanis at the Ulm Hospital in Germany. How do we operate our, and how do we do our outreach programs? I'm going to list them and then I go explain in more details. The first one, which is extremely important, is our churches. Now, Armenians are Christians, but they are not fanatic Christians. Christianity for Armenians is like culture. They like to go to church, they like to meet their friends, and so it's very important for us to go to church, our churches, to get our clergy involved. And we have two heads of churches, one in diaspora, which is the Catholicos is, oops, who's the pointer? The one on the right is the head of the churches in diaspora. The one on the left side is that all Armenian Catholicos who resides in Armenia. Now, we approached them and asked them to become a donor, so they accepted our invitation, and they are part of registry, and automatically all the clergy, they got involved. So this is how we approach them, and every year, month of April is announced in churches of all United States, a year of Armenia Bone Marrow, a month of Armenia Bone Marrow registry. So that month we go to different churches, and after the Sunday service, we stand up, we talk about our project and educate people. So we have very close collaboration with our churches. And there's one important factor that you have to bear in mind. When a patient, when a person gets sick, what they do, they go to church and they start praying. So clergy has to get involved to know that how can they can divert them to our organization and advise them. Now, the schools and universities are bases of our operation for recruiting our future donors. Dr. Avakian, Dr. Mira Nazaretian, and also all our board members, especially Dr. Regine Matlenian, she's the outreach officer in the United States, and Phoebe Mkhitaryan, they all go to different establishments, especially universities, especially colleges, and start talking about our project. They might not even recruit one single donor, but they educate people, especially young people, so they can become our future generation. Now, it's very important to go to different cultural organizations and political organizations, and I'm very happy to say that this year, because of our 15th anniversary, we have been given an award by the Los Angeles City Council. And also different political organization and cultural organization has recognized our efforts. Military is the most important basis of our operation because we recruit young male donors from military. And we have such a good relationship established that every year we recruit the new cadets that they join the military university. And this year, thanks to the efforts of Dr. Avakian, we recruited 1,000 donors from 911 network throughout the Armenia. 911 is the emergency network, which is paramedics and firefighters and all those healthy people and motivated people to save somebody's life. And also very close relation with corporations, because without corporations support and help, like histogenetics, it's very difficult to organize conferences or continue your operation. We work very closely with our embassies. Our embassies are throughout the world. So whenever we want to travel to any country, we approach our embassy and ask them to get country. So when we go there, there is the basis of operation for us to contact, to be in touch with the community. And they do a wonderful job. And this is the help that our government is showing us, and we are so grateful. It is very important that we do our marketing. We have to have our website, social media, and nowadays everything it relies on this system. And in Los Angeles, we have our own TV program, and Dr. Kapoor was one of my guests. And it's all educational. We just discuss different type of leukemias, how the patients they can be treated. It's all outreach programs. So the idea is to really inform public about leukemia, about how it can be treated, and what actions they can take if they need us to help them. And we have our annual newsletters, we have publication, and the DVDs. And this, okay. Now, the fundraising part, we have different fundraising efforts. Some fundraisings are outreach and fundraising, and it focuses on different communities. For example, Walkathon is usually a grassroots event targeted to young families, and it's very popular in America to do walkathons. So we have one in Los Angeles and one in the East Coast, and it's a very, very popular program. We have different fundraisings. We have gala, casino night, wine tasting, comedy night, whatever brings money we do. And in Armenia, I'm going to talk now on the operation side of Armenia. We have HLA typing lab, and the method of that we use is PCR SSP based method, and we use all our kits for this for years. And we do class 1 and class 2 typing. So we have recruited over 26,000 donors, which are all class 1 and class 2 typed. And the HLA matching program that we used to have solar system inherited both from Anthony Nolan, but then we developed our in-house software. Probably if we have more resources, we can also go in future buy our Prometheus or other softwares, but right now we cannot afford it, because it's not only buying the software, you have to maintain the software too. So that is the way that our database works now. ABM presence in different parts of the world. Where is the flag? We have been there, and it's 24 countries. And this is the global distribution of our donors. Majority of donors, obviously, they're from Armenia, and then Karabakh, and then United States, and all over the world. Now, in order for any registry, you have to maximize your resources, because you have collected the most expertise. You have established PCR typing techniques. Your technicians are extremely good in molecular typing techniques. That's why in order to survive the economics, you have to be quite flexible. So we started to have our own harvesting center, and the reason was that in Armenia there is no harvesting center, there is no transplant center. So what we used to do, when there was a match for a patient, the donor and patient, we had to take outside Armenia for harvesting. And that is very, very costly, and sometimes the donors don't feel comfortable going to a different country for harvesting. And that was the reason that 6 years ago, we decided to have our own harvesting center in Armenia. And the person that you are seeing lying there is a donor from Iran who matched a patient from Belgium. So he traveled to Armenia.